Hello! So, despite the Battlefield 4 intros, this video is all about Battlefield 5 and what I want to see out of Battlefield 5. So the obvious starting point for Battlefield 5 is Battlefield 4, and Battlefield 4 gets a lot right as far as I'm concerned. I think Battlefield 4 does guns really well. I think the gun mechanics, the gunplay and the gun balance is pretty spot on in Battlefield 4. There are some guns that are better than others, but it's really that there are some guns that are just not worth using. It's not like all guns are bad or that there's one gun that's miles better than any other in the game. It's just that some aren't very good. There are 4 or 5 assault rifles which vie for the best assault rifle, and it all depends on your game style. There's maybe 2 or 3 which are the best all-rounders depending on how you want to play it. Then there's the Scar, which is probably the best of the heavy hitting guns, and then there's the AK, which is probably the best of the shorter range fast firing guns. But there's no outright winner when it comes to assault rifles, and it's pretty much the same for the other classes as well. And let's face it, one thing Battlefield 4 does really well is Conquest. Conquest is Battlefield 4's main mode, and most maps work really well with it. There are a couple in Naval Strike that I really don't like for Conquest, but overall Battlefield 4 gets Conquest pretty spot on. On the whole, I like the vehicle balance as well. I think Battlefield 4 gets the right balance between the number of vehicles on a map and the number of infantry players. I think that the infantry have been nerfed slightly against vehicles, which makes the situation a bit tougher. You know, putting 4 or 5 rockets into one vehicle to kill it puts infantry at a bit of a disadvantage. And let's face it, air vehicles have never been balanced in any Battlefield game. If you've got jets and if you've got helicopters in the same map, then how do you balance the AA to cope with both? Now for me, the biggest fault with Battlefield 4 is its class system. And I've covered this before in a video. 4 classes puts too much power into the assault class. The assault class can heal, it can revive, it's got grenade launchers, it's got the best weapons. It's too much power put into one class. Now I've done a video on this before where I go through basically all the class changes I'd make, including putting in a new class which is Medic. So Assault and Medic would be split. The Medic class would end up with the PDWs, the Engineers would end up with the Carbines, and the Assault class would basically lose its healing to the Medic class, but it would gain grenades. So the specialised grenades would be removed from all the other classes, but they would be gadgets for the Assault class. And in this video I also go through all the changes I would make to the gadgets, which ones I would remove, which ones I would add. It's basically just a whole class guide. And you should be able to click on the screen at the moment and it will take you off to that video so you can have a look at it, so I don't have to go through it all over again. So for me, I would quite happily play Battlefield 4 as it is now, but with a few tweaks. I don't think the game needs to fundamentally change in terms of its mechanics between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 5. I think if you do that, you run into the hardline problem, where the game just isn't a Battlefield game. It doesn't have the theme of a Battlefield game, it doesn't have the gun mechanics of a Battlefield game, and it really just doesn't have any correlation between Battlefield Hardline and Battlefield 4, other than some of the gun models. The rest of the game just feels too different. It's not Battlefield, and therefore Battlefield 5 should be an iteration from Battlefield 4, not a jump away from it like Hardline was. So is there anything I would take from Hardline and put it into Battlefield 5? Well, when I discuss the classes, some of the gadgets that I add to the game are actually from Battlefield Hardline, things like the Sabotage Charge. And I think some of Hardline's smaller game modes would fit quite nicely into Battlefield. Blood Money I think would work if you were stealing supplies and taking them back to your base, and I also think that Heist would work if you were breaking into bases to steal technology. That kind of thing would fit really well into Battlefield 5 and give the game some more options for the smaller game modes, something more interesting than just team deathmatch. One thing I don't want to see brought over from Hardline is things like the gun customization and the camo customization. That doesn't fit with a military theme. It really doesn't fit when you see policemen running around with gold guns and orange camo as it is. So putting that into a military theme I think doesn't work. But I do like some of the interface choices they made. showing you what loadout somebody's using when they kill you, or even just showing you what the next round is going to be at the end of the previous round. And it's a similar story for Star Wars Battlefront. I think the game modes and the graphics is what I would pick from this. So Star Wars Battlefront does the smaller game modes really well, and it does the smaller maps really well. That is one thing that Battlefield 4 really doesn't do, the smaller versions of its Conquest maps. And even the Rush versions of Conquest maps are pretty badly done. I think they should work on a small map, then increase the size, get it so it works as a Rush map, and then increase the size again and get it to work as a Conquest large map. That way, out of one map you can probably get 2 small game mode maps, 1 Rush map and 1 Conquest map. But the main thing you take from Star Wars Battlefront into Battlefield 5 is the graphics and the engine, because the graphics and sound on Star Wars Battlefront are pretty amazing. When you compare them back to the 3-year-old Battlefield 4, it's just a different class. So, from Star Wars Battlefront, I take the ethos of designing good small maps and the engine. But my big hope for Battlefield 5 is that they just improve on Battlefield 4 and don't try changing the nature of the Battlefield games. I don't want it dumbed down to Star Wars Battlefront levels, but I don't want it to become too overly tactical like an armour game. Battlefield for me has always been the perfect balance. You can go in with your mates in a squad, chat, have fun, or you can go in on your own and have a good game. So Battlefield 5 would be Battlefield 4 but with a better class balance. It would have the graphics of Star Wars Battlefront, it would have the more interesting small game modes of Hardline and Battlefront, and there would be more thought and planning into the map design so they work on the small game modes, the medium game modes and the larger game modes. I played Battlefield 4 when it was awful, I played Battlefield 4 when it was good, and I played Battlefield 4 now it's great. There are still a lot of people playing Battlefield 4, so don't go over the top and try and reinvent it. Just make Battlefield 5 a better version of Battlefield 4.